And now I introduce you to Reverend Joel Fotinos with today's Sunday lesson.
Hey, everybody. I hope you can hear me. That was great, Brian. Thanks so much for that. That was terrific. In fact, this is the year of connection. Why don't we connect with laughter first thing? And Brian had actually texted me a joke to use. So this is courtesy of Brian. A doctor says to his patient, John, I've got some bad news and some worse news. And John says, Doctor, what's the bad news? And the doctor says, well, John, you only have 24 hours to live. And John says, oh my gosh, what news could be worse than that, Doc? And the doctor says, well, we've been trying to get a hold of you since yesterday. So thank you, Brian, for sending that joke along. So this, this is the year of connection. And let me begin with a question. What makes people happy? What makes you happy, me happy, other people happy? What brings true joy and contentment? If you look at statistics, when people are asked what makes them happy, usually they'll say things like, well, more money would make me happy. But if that's true, then that would mean that rich people are all happy, right? And we know that's not true. And other people will say, well, if I improved my appearance, I would be more happy. And that must mean then that all beautiful people by society's standards must be happy. But we know that that's also not true. And some people say, well, youth would make me happy if I were younger. That would mean like all young people are happy. And we know that's not true. And others will say, well, fame would make me happier. And we know that that's also not true because lots of famous people are not happy. And people think having more social media likes and followers will make them happy. That also doesn't work. So if all these things of the world are not the sources of our happiness, then what is? Well, we're told by virtually every spiritual teacher, as well as psychology and philosophy, that the source of our happiness is never out there. It is always found within. And that's why we're here studying a philosophy that shows us how to go within to make our life better. And every year we do the same thing. We start with the basics. We take the textbook, and like many centers around the country and around the world, actually, we study the first 4 chapters. And the first 4 chapters are found in the textbook, the thing itself, the way it works, what it does, and how to use it. All right. And I was thinking, I'm giving the very first talk of these 4, the thing itself, and I thought, what a perfect perfect timing for me. Last week, when Reverend Michelle had us go around and talk about our intentions, I said that my intention for the year was coming home. That was my theme. And in a sense, that's true because we're currently living in temporary housing until we find our new perfect home. But the more I got into my spiritual practice and was thinking about it, the more I thought, actually, my theme for this year is beginner's mind. Beginner's mind. Because what I know, everything that I know, has got me to this point. I know what I know, but I don't know what I don't know. So to go further and expand in every area of my life, I need to go beyond what I know. So I need that beginner's mind so I can be open to all possibilities. And Science of Mind, like Buddhism, Course in Miracles, and other teachings, teaches how to be newly awakened every single day. So week 1, the thing itself. Ernest Holmes begins the philosophy with the concept of oneness. One power, not two. He says the one has many names, God, Allah, spirit, this, that. There's so many names, and every single one of those names has a charge to it, or a memory to it, or a meaning attached to it. So he calls it the thing. Now, I remember when I first got to the Science of Mind and started going to the Mile High Center in Denver, and they kept referring to it as the thing, I remember I didn't like that because it seemed different to me. It seemed different. But then I came to love it. And I came to love it because I realized that Ernest Holmes was doing a radical renaming of the thing that we already thought we knew. He was taking us out of our preconceived notions to make us rethink this concept, beginner's mind, and shake us out of believing in duality. If you try to live that truth of oneness, if you just really concentrate and said, I'm going to live oneness in all ways today, you will see quickly how steeped our culture is in duality. Heaven and hell, good and bad, God and devil, us and them, on and on. It's everywhere. So Holmes knew he needed to lift us out of that prevalent mindset of duality. And so calling this power the thing was a brilliant way for us to rethink all that we thought we knew. It's just amazing. So there's just one. And this one has what we would call the three omnis. It's omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient, which basically means the thing is everywhere, can do all things, and knows everything. This is the power in the universe. And he said that this power is love. So love is the power. How does love, the power, work? He says it works through law, love and law. The thing operates through law, which he also calls the creative process. This process, he says, nothing supernatural about it. The process is natural. And you're going to learn more about the process in the next 3 weeks. Holmes says that this thing never, Holmes says that the law never plays favorites. So love is very personal. But law, the process, is impersonal. Everyone has the same access to use it. You don't need a special degree. You don't need a special anything. You, everyone can use it. Boy, when I first discovered that, I loved it. Because, I grew up in Western Nebraska, near the Wyoming border. I was different. We were in the middle of nowhere. I felt very powerless back then. And I remember feeling like everyone else seemed to have gotten a special book of instructions that I seemed not to have gotten. And when I discovered the Science of Mind, I think I found for myself that special book of instructions. The Science of Mind principles are really found in all wisdom traditions. Ernest Holmes says, I didn't make any of this up, I just discovered it. And then he put it down in a way that we could understand it so we could use it. So love is what it is, and law is how it works through the creative process. Well, where do we come in? We come in because we can access this creative process through the power of our thoughts. And Ernest Holmes says in this chapter, all thought is creative. We can use our thoughts consciously, or we can use them unconsciously. And in truth, we actually do both. But we can learn to use these principles so that we can be more conscious in using our thought more and more. Ernest Holmes says, the optimist is right and the pessimist is right, meaning the optimist, the one that has more optimistic thoughts, tends to see a more optimistic experience. And the pessimist, who has more pessimistic thoughts, tends to see a more pessimistic experience. Same law that they're using, just using it in two different ways. When we consciously use our thoughts, Ernest Holmes says, when we consciously use our thoughts, we are on what he calls the path to freedom. He says that this path to freedom, using our thoughts to create a better life, he says, this is the greatest discovery of all time. And when you think about it, it really pretty much is. The road to freedom lies not through mysteries, he says, but through the intelligent use of nature's forces and laws, which is why we go through these first 4 weeks, these first 4 chapters through the month of January. When we learn these simple truths, simple to grasp, but a lifetime to learn, we begin to learn to trust them. And the more we trust them, the more we can demonstrate this in our lives. I remember years when I was first getting into all this stuff, I was reading The Science of Mind, taking the classes, and I also was reading You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay, which I think we have a class coming in on. And I remember I was listening to all those Louise Hay tapes. She used to have all these cassette tapes that were available to people, and I would listen to them all the time. Man, I soaked myself in them. And one of them, she said, think of it this way, be like you are on a beach staring at the ocean. The ocean is the thing. And if you want the water, she says, you can access as much of this water as you want. And so she says, some people go and they get a thimble and they go to the ocean and they fill the thimble with the water. And that's just a tiny bit of the use of this unlimited, vast amount of water that we have available. If we use a thimble, we get just a tiny bit. She says, but if we use a huge container like a bathtub and immerse ourselves in it, then we have more. And she says, what's amazing is the ocean didn't care how much of it you use. So we might start by using it as a thimble to learn how to use it, to get that trust and confidence in it that Ernest Holmes talks about. But this year, I think, for me, and I hope for all of you, is that we start to use more and more and more of the power of the universe in our lives so that we have an ever greater experience of it. So, first page of the chapter, of the thing itself. Ernest Holmes says this. He says, we see an abundance in the universe. We cannot count the grains of sand on a single beach. The earth contains untold riches, and the very air is vibrant with power. Why then are we weak, poor, and afraid? The science of mind deals with these questions. The divine plan is one of freedom. Bondage is not God ordained. Freedom is the birthright of every living soul. All of us instinctively feel this. The truth points to freedom under law. Thus, the inherent nature of us is forever seeking to express itself in terms of freedom. We do well to listen to this inner voice, for it tells us of a life wonderful in its scope, of a love beyond our fondest dreams, of a freedom which the soul craves. Now pay attention to this last bit. He says, but the great love of the universe must be one with the great law of its own being. And we approach love, capital L love, through the law, capital L law. This then is the teaching. Love and law. As the love of God is perfect, so the law of God is also perfect. We must understand both. So, how do we use this in our daily lives? Let's make it practical. Let's bring it right into our lives, because those are great concepts. Here's an example from a few years ago, and it's an example I love to use. I was having a bad day. I know none of you have bad days, so don't judge me for it, but I was having a really bad day. Some of you do have bad days, I see. Okay, so I'm not alone in this. I was having a bad day. It was one of those days where it felt like every single thing was working against me. Have you had that? It was like, I felt like I was pushing against everything. The trains were all late. People at the office were all grouchy. Some of the emails that I got were negative. The meetings went on and on. I hadn't slept well the night before, so I was feeling run down, etc., etc., etc. If you had stopped me on that day and asked me how things were going on, I could have probably spent an hour going through the drama of what I was experiencing that day. But I'm committed to a spiritual practice to live my truth, to live these principles, to demonstrate them in my life. Ernest Holmes says, if you cannot demonstrate them, if these principles don't make your life better, then they're no good. We have to use them. We have to literally make our life better by using them. We can't just think about it. So there was that day when work was done. I started the trek home. My office was in Manhattan, and I was on my way home back in New Jersey. And I took the PATH train, which was overcrowded. You know, one of those trains, subway trains, where everybody's just like packing themselves in and it's already overpacked and people are like plastering themselves in before the doors close. It was one of those days. And it took me to the Hoboken station. And I got into the Hoboken station and I found out that all the trains were delayed. So the station was packed with people. It was really cold. Everybody was really, really angry. And in my head, I just had the thought, which is, God, where are you now? And I heard that still small voice that says, I'm everywhere. And I said, even in Hoboken? And the answer was right here. I'm right here. Find me. That's spiritual practice in a nutshell, to see the one in all things and people. So I had my spiritual practice right in front of me. Now, if you've been to the Hoboken train station, probably many of you have, there's like these steps that in one section, you know, you have all the trains and there's doors and the little restaurant stuff, but there are these steps that go up to some other doors that are up higher. And so I climbed to the top of the steps and I sat down, and from that perch, I could kind of see everything. And I sat there and I thought, okay, I'm going to go into spiritual mind treatment, because that's what we teach. Spiritual mind treatment is our form of affirmative prayer. And I went right into spiritual mind treatment. Boy, and I got so connected. I'm sitting on these cold steps in the cold, surrounded by people, and I got connected. And I got really connected. And I just felt compelled at that moment to just treat for everyone in that station. The highest and greatest for everyone. I didn't know any of them, but I wanted the highest and greatest for all of them. And so I began to just look at every person I could see. And every time I'd see a person, which there was a lot of them, so I was just going from head to head to head, I would imagine blessings dropping on them, so just soaking them with love. And I just kept doing that. And there were hundreds of people in the station. And it was just a moment on each one, dropping those blessings on them. I'm going to tell you, I could have floated home. I was so high from using this. It changed everything. It changed my mood. It changed my experience. And I'll tell you what, I can't remember a single bad email that I got that day. But I can tell you exactly how I felt by using the principles in my life that day. It felt incredible to live in the oneness, to live in the thing. I was the thing in action. And it was so simple, and yet it was so powerful. So this is the year of connection. I'm going into it, and I invite you to go into it with me with a beginner's mind. For it is only in beginner's mind that all things are possible, not just those that you thought might be possible. Ernest Holmes tells us that we must be what he called open at the top. Never think we know everything. In Buddhism, there's a beautiful concept or image of a cup being empty so it can receive. versus a cup that's so full that when new tea is poured into it, it cannot receive any of it. It just flows down the side because it's so full. Be the empty cup. Be the beautiful beginner in your life so you and I can experience life and these teachings in new ways. 2020, the year we discover, or for those of us who have been in this for a long time, we rediscover anew the thing itself. Let's bring this into treatment so that we connect with it right here. I don't know about you, but just even as we talk about it, I connect with this oneness, this greatness, this power that is unlimited in all ways, what Ernest Holmes calls the thing. So in this moment, we connect to the thing itself, knowing that it is the one power and that we are made of it, and there is no separation. We are the manifestation of the thing, and therefore, wherever I am, wherever you are, we each have a full connection to the allness that is the thing. And with that, we open ourselves up with a new beginner's mind so that we might be guided and directed in ever expanding ways to experience life more fully than ever before. We turn we turn our thoughts away from finding fulfillment outside of ourselves to finding all of the contentment that we need within. It's all right here. And we feel it, we experience it, we use it, and we live it. This is our truth, and we're so grateful to know it. And we let it go into that beautiful creative law, which is the way that love works, right here, right now. And together we say, and so it is.